Hello, fellow Star Trek fans. Welcome back to a brand new episode of 10 Forward, the show where myself and the wonderful Jodie Pickens pick apart and deep dive the latest episodes in the Star Trek franchise. Jodie, how are you doing this week? And you can't say Trek-tastic.
But I want to.
But you can't, because it's the last of the episode of Academy.
I know.
It's and that's it. It's done now.
It's done. And that's I'm torn because obviously it was the last episode. And
am I going to have to start calling you Natalie Imbruglia now because you're torn?
A little bit, maybe today. Only on last episodes of the season, because I'm not ready for this to be over by far.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm a bit sad because you know what, I have to say it's quite the highlight of my year when I get to wake up early in the morning on a Thursday, get up, turn the telly on downstairs, throw Paramount Plus on, and get to watch brand new Star Trek. So you know, I enjoyed that a lot, and well, that's it. I'm done now until Strange New Worlds airs some point later this year.
But we will be rewatching Academy on repeat until all of the numbers go up. I don't think we'll ever get sick of it, honestly. There's a lot of cookies and nuggets and Easter eggs in these episodes too,
and everything else.
And everything else.
So with that then, let's get into this week's episode, which of course is the season finale of Star Trek Academy Season 1, Episode 10, titled Rubincon, which is an interesting name. And this is where the Federation gets put on trial. The Omega minefield becomes a ticking clock, and Caleb is forced to choose who he is when both his worlds are on the line. Now, we open on the past through Anisha's eyes. Flash cuts to the day where, well, everything broke, and Commander Nala Ake is presiding. Nus Braka is president, and Anisha is sentenced. Caleb made ward of the Federation, and Anisha's last words slicing through it all. Don't trust the Federation. I love you. Snap to sickbay, where the doctor is treating Anisha when Ake steps in and calmly says, "Hello, Miss Mir." And Anisha launches off the bio-bed, screaming no, going for Ake on instinct, but Caleb stops her. It's not tidy, but it's real. And Ake tells Anisha that under the most of any other circumstances, she'd give her a ship to leave and Caleb too if he chooses it. But these aren't normal circumstances. Braka is out there, the Venari are hunting, and, well, Athena is trapped outside the perimeter of the Omega 47 mines. On the bridge, they catch a brief comm window with Admiral Vance and Commander Laura Thock. The minefield doesn't have any gaps, and if these mines detonate, they will shred space and subspace for more than 80,000 light years and impact over 1 billion people. Discovery can't jump through without risking a chain reaction either. So Vance asks Ake, "What's on board? What do you have?" Small crew, some first-year cadets, and Anisha Mir. And Anisha makes it very clear that once they're safe, she and Caleb are leaving. Before the signal drops, they learn one more key fact, and that's the minefield is controlled by a single signal. Braka will have a failsafe, and they need to take control of it without disrupting. And then the doctor calls incoming warp signatures. Venari roll. Reno reports a plasma leak. No warp. Red alert. Shields up. They're failing fast, and Ake orders the cadets hidden. But Anisha argues to stay on the bridge because, well, Braka thinks that she's dead, and her being here will buy them some valuable time. And Anisha warns Ake that if anything happens to Caleb, she'll kill her. And Ake's reply is, well, nothing short of grim. That if anything happens to Caleb, Anisha will be doing her a favor. Cut to the airlock, and Reno gives the cadets survival instructions. Jaden tells Caleb that a warrior never leaves a brother behind. And Caleb tries to apologize to Genesis, but, well, she just shuts it down. Not now. Back on the bridge, the Athena takes a direct hit. Shields collapse, the plasma lit worsens, and then Nus Braka beams in and drops into the captain's chair as if it's his. And he scans the ship twice. There's no one else on board. Exactly what Ake wants him to believe. Braka announces that he's taking Ake and Anisha. Everyone else stays, and Ake gives the doctor and Reno one last line that sounds like poetry until the doctor hears the code. Hermes 19. Reno protests because she's never had to run that drill. The doctor insists, hands her his mobile emitter nearly 1,000 years old, and tells her to be careful with it. Reno places it in the console and the computer absorbs it, and the doctor disappears. Outside, the Venari fire and the Athena appears to explode. Then the twist. The ship, she's still there, barely hanging on. And the Doctor extended his matrix and created a ship hologram decoy. The computer confirms it worked, but structural integrity is dropping and the cadets rush to the bridge. Caleb demands to know where his mum is. Reno tells him Braka took her. Sam asks about her father, and Reno tells her that, well, he's in the computer. And then she puts everyone to work. The mission is bigger than one rescue. Break the Omega perimeter, free the Federation, then go after Braka. But Caleb hates it. Trima says, well, the truth out loud. 2 very important people versus billions. While that happens, Braka turns the captured section into a broadcast courtroom, and he tells non-Federation worlds that the Federation's abandoned them. And he claims that his strontium mining colony begged for help when it was destroyed by Starfleet retaliation. And he declares that the Federation is on trial and Ake is its proxy. Then Anisha, well, she's judge and jury. Back aboard the Athena, Sam takes the Doctor to Ake's office for a level 10 diagnostic, and he's glitching, speaking absolute nonsense, until he becomes a clue. Glue, Rubicon, Rubin particles. Sam locks in instantly. Omega 47 was stabilized using Rubin particles with glue strengthening molecular bonds, or the gluons. Reduce the Rubin particle density and Omega can stabilize permanently, shutting down the minefield safely. Computer runs some simulations and they finally get the numbers. Now they just need Braka's frequency to broadcast the algorithm to the mind. And Tarima, she's nailed it. She's got that frequency. And Darren narrows down the system Braka is in, but it's still too wide. They need precise coordinates. So Caleb turns to Tarima and asks her to find his mother through him. The connection is still there, and if she can locate Anisha, they locate Braka. Tarima removes her inhibitor. They hold hands, and she goes in, follows the thread, and comes out with the exact coordinates. And Reno calls it their final exam. And if they pass, they live, and if they fail, they die. And then she gives the most Jett Reno command ever. Now show me pretty streaks of light. They warp into a gas giant to stay hidden, capture Braka's frequency, and Sam begins to upload the algorithm. And Caleb makes his move. He takes a shuttle straight towards Braka's location to force Braka's attention off the minefield to buy Sam those precious extra minutes that she needs to finish the upload. Braka rages mid-broadcast, presses the detonator, and, well, nothing happens. The minefield shuts down, Omega stabilizes, and the Federation ships, and I think all of the Federation ships, are in and surround Braka's vessel, and Admiral Vance hails the Athena, thanks them, and says Starfleet will take it from here. Security boards, Araka is arrested. Anisha punches him. Ake punches him too and orders him out. It's catharsis with 2 hits. Back at Academy, normal starts to creep back in. Caleb tries to dodge a formal reception with the president because of, well, dress uniforms and they come with too many forks. Ake tells him that etiquette comes next year and Anisha and Caleb are going to Earth together. She admits part of her hopes that he will stay, but she knows Starfleet is his home. And Caleb tells her Starfleet is his home. But so is she. And she will always know where to find him. And at that end of it all, Caleb records something that, well, he never thought he would. This is second year cadet Caleb Mir. And this is my first cadet log. Because at the beginning, he wanted to run. Now he chooses to stay. Jodie, do you know what? I think that is probably one of the best season finales for Star Trek for a long time. There was some great ones. I
couldn't agree more.
There's some great ones in Discovery. But there's something about this one where it just seems to hit a bit different. And I know what it is. It's Specialist Krebs and his Talaxian furfly, who has now left the replicator and is now mating with himself or itself. Now I'm wondering, is that a replicator clone? I'm presuming so.
I think we'll know in season 2 when there's 1 or 2 or more Talaxian furflies.
Talaxian furfly is a swarm. Academy.
You know how when the War College got infiltrated by that plant?
Academy's getting infiltrated with Talaxian furflies.
Talaxian furflies. Neelix, his soul lives on in these Talaxian furflies. Absolutely. And I love it. That means 9 out of 10 episodes.
I know.
We had mention of Talaxian furflies.
I love this, the digital Dean. I think he's fantastic.
Yes.
The other thing I also like was where at the very end of the episode where they get to Beta Z, and he goes, "Remember, cadets, to wear sunscreen, because if you attend any weddings, you're going to need it." And it's just like, oh yeah, because obviously everyone's naked on a Betazoid wedding.
Yeah, the Betazoid weddings. We learned that from Luxwana, didn't we?
Yeah, TNG.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Mm-hmm. Do you know what, there's so many. Look, we said last week we hoped that everything gets tied up, and I think everything has now been tied up. All of those plots have been done. Nus Braka's plot, that's done, dusted. He's now in Federation custody. He is never getting out of Federation custody. That's him, done, dusted, and over. Not unless,
or is he?
Well, let's just say they don't. I don't think intentionally he's leaving Starfleet security.
There, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Custody, sorry, not security. We got to see Jett, Reno, and Laura Thok again together after a couple of episodes apart, which I thought was really nice. Caleb's found his mum, and she's accepting of him being in Academy. I think that also puts Ake at rest because, she's done her bit now, if that makes sense. She's now at rest. Caleb is here to stay. He's almost, she's almost got Anisha's permission. Looking at how they interact at the very end of the episode. And I just think everything's been kind of tied together. The cadets are still a family, with being part of Jaden's house, because again, we get to see that in the airlock scene. So all of those points that we mentioned last week that hadn't been tied up have all now been kind of tied up nice and neat in the book. So I'm really interested to see how season 2 pans out, because there's not a lot of carryover from season 1.
But what I like is that it set season 2 up to be a separate year.
Absolutely.
I think so too. And because they delivered a lot in these 10 episodes. And I want to go back to what you said at the beginning about how, as a season finale, this was good. It was different from what we've seen. And it's very different, at least for me, in my opinion, from like what we've seen in 90s Trek, where we always had the cliffhangers and we had to wait 3 months until the next fall season. But they were very dramatic.
Not waiting 3 months for the next season. It's probably going to be 18 months before we get season 2.
Right. But I think, too, this ended on the idea of hope.
Yes.
And that, healing and hope and community and found family, all those messages that I feel are so core to Trek. And we had a hopeful ending. And we don't always get hopeful endings from our Trek series at the end of a season. And so I appreciated this. And I like, too, and we'll probably talk about it later, but they gave it like the end of a school year feel. Yeah. Like, kids were going off to different places. Here's the yearbook photos with little yearbook vibe.
It's summer break. Everyone's going back off to go and do their own thing for 3 months while they're away. And I agree. I think they've ended it on a really good note, but also set season 2 up to do something either very different or something very. It's either going to be very different or it's going to be a bit samey, but with some interesting parts. So I'd be interested.
Well, I think.
But looking at some of the early behind-the-scenes photos, we see Genesis in Command Red. In season 2, so I can't wait to see what happens there.
Well, did this storyline get her promoted? Get Ake's approval to get into the command
track? Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping. It's what I'm hoping for.
I do too.
Look, Holly Hunter absolutely nailed it. And we saw all sides of Ake. We saw the confident captain. We saw the nervous captain. We got to see the emotional mother. And everything in between. And I think she absolutely hit the nail on the head here. She didn't overplay anything. She didn't underplay anything. I think the same goes for Tatiana Maslany as well. Absolutely hit the nail on the head. There were tears being shed at one point, and I really, really, really enjoyed Kayla's monologue.
Oh yes, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I really feel like this whole season has been Caleb building up to either figuring out who he was or what he was going to do. This was that episode, and without him being like the complete main character of it, we got that from him. We got to see his growth and his decision making and what his found family means to him.
Yeah.
And he got a little push from Jett Reno, right? When they were in, because all life decisions are made in engineering.
Absolutely.
Caleb and Jett Reno had that moment and that exchange while they were trying to fix nacelles or whatever they were doing. But
fixing the plasma leak.
Yes, thank you. Science. What do I know? But I agree with you. I do think, and what I like too about Ake and what Holly Hunter did with her, especially in this episode, is under all of that emotion, there was still a tactical Starfleet officer.
Yeah.
Planning, thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And trying to think of what her next move was going to be. And it paid off.
Absolutely.
And I love it.
And I just want to just dial back slightly to that monologue, that Caleb monologue. Just the fact that he talks about how, yes, Starfleet broke them up. Yes, Ake is to blame for that. But also, to be fair, Anisha, you're just as much to blame as that as she is. But, I now have a home. I now have another family, and, I didn't want to be here at the beginning, but I found my place. And I think that's something quite powerful as well when you think about it, because not a lot of people get to have that moment. And just the way it was played was exceptional.
Yes,
we have to give a phenomenal job of that.
Oh yeah,
to be fair, he's been great the whole season. To be honest with you,
he really has, because he hasn't overplayed it, and we've gotten that from all of these actors in their characters. That there's not been something so overdone.
No,
he's the main character in this. Like, his story revolves a lot around him, but I don't feel like he's ever the one stealing scenes, and I don't think any of them do that. And that's saying a lot when you've got 2 Academy Award winning actors.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Set, so.
I mean, look, let's move on to Tig Notaro and Jett Reno. This is the first time that we see Jett Reno in command, like properly in command, not in simulations or anything like that. And I think she absolutely freaking nailed it. The fact that I really love the fact that she called back to that disastrous transport, that simulation from a couple of episodes ago. And but you look at the cadets in that, and you look at the cadets now, they are night and day. And just the fact that she almost, she just turns around and says, guys, put everything to one side. We have to make this work. And I love the fact that when she handed the con over to Genesis sat down, pin out, pin back on, and then sat there all very proud of herself. And it's just like, it's just the little details like that I just really enjoyed. But I think the fact that Tig then, put some sense into Caleb in it whilst they were fixing that, and the fact that she managed to get everybody to buckle down onto their station. And also when Raimi really struggled getting out of that gravitational well, she just came in, did it, and then goes, hey, I destroyed 3 shuttles when I was learning. That's a hard thing to do. Remember, you learn more in your failures than you do in your successes. And it's like, absolutely. She just did a phenomenal job. Job.
And I think the way they've always written Jett Reno so well, because she gets to play that fun, snarky, snide, know-it-all. But I think here in Academy, we're seeing this evolved version of Jett Reno, because throughout all of this, she was still teaching. She was still being emotional and caring and showing them that, look, mistakes happen. We all make them. I've made them.
Yep.
Let's move on. And yet leading them through a pretty intense situation. And I don't know that you can ask more for someone in a command role than that. No. That's what we want to see in our captains and our leaders. And then at the end, where everybody's having, this nice, let's wind this up, we get to see what we've seen all throughout Academy, is that the people they truly care about being closer, whether that's a hug or we see Reno and Thok walking through that atrium holding hands.
Well, I just love the whole bit where, Jett's trying to hold hands and Laura's going, no, fuck off, not happening. And eventually it happens. I just love it.
It was great. It was so them.
But there's one person missing.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the War College cadets?
The only thing I can figure is that in the last episode, they got moved ahead with the Federation, so they were trapped inside.
No, but I meant at the end.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about the ending, everyone, as you just said, everyone who's growing close to each other is there. So, you're seeing Sam and the Doctor. You're seeing
Kyle
and Laura. There's no Kyle.
And we need Kyle.
Why did he not beam up for that one moment? Come on, people.
In my head, they had a little video comm call. And
yes, absolutely.
All is well. So that happened.
I think one of the things that really stood out for me this week is the sets. Now, what they did to the atrium is borderline insane and jarring. You know, you have to take a second breath when you first see Ake and Anisha. You know, you can kind of they're on the Athena, but you don't quite know where.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden the camera opens up and they walk around and you just see this absolutely gutted and destroyed atrium. And it's horrible to look at because, you've got that, very proud wall of, Starfleet Academy alumni that's been trashed and ripped down. You've got all of the different banners and that are just destroyed and ripped up. There's just junk everywhere. Heck, the ponds are on fire. So God knows what happened to the fish.
Right.
And I just think that they did a phenomenal job of dressing.
They really did.
And
they really did.
They nailed it.
They did, and I think like you said, it was so stark. Like you had to pause a minute and be like, "Oh, are we really in the atrium of the Athena?" We were, but what I love about that is that it told me that we're not only attached to these characters, we're attached to the place. We're attached to the Athena now, because I felt protective of that. Like I felt protective of the Enterprise, of Voyager, of Discovery. Like this ship has character. It's a home for us now too.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Thank you for that. I don't like that you destroyed it, but it got fixed.
It did get fixed. It got fixed very quickly.
Well, it's the 32nd century. I'm hoping that those
programmable matter just came in and went. They just reset the programmable matter back. That's what I'm thinking. Anyway, but
okay, I like that.
I just think they nailed it. And then
yes,
the fact that the end of the episode, Anisha is on the balcony in the atrium. Caleb is walking through with Ake talking about dress uniform and forks, and she has to force him to go and see his mum. And the fact that there's this acceptance that she's accepted him, for being in Academy, and then he gives her the tour. I just think it's a really great way to end. That whole storyline is now kind of put to bed, but put to bed in a really good way.
Such a good way, because that nod that we see as Caleb's moving, like he's leaving Ake and going up to see his mom, we get that nod from Anisha to Ake.
Yeah.
And that's an understanding between two women who have a love and care for the same young man, Caleb.
Yeah.
And they want nothing but the best for them. And they understand that out of each other.
Yeah.
And when one couldn't step up, the other did. And now they're both there to share his space. And I think that was so poignant and such a strong message about found family.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I just love that. And I will keep saying this, but I've said this on several episodes this season, but this couldn't have gotten more Star Trek if we'd wanted it to.
No, absolutely.
I mean, we had a trial, which is like Measure of a Man, Author. I mean, we've had the one in Ad Aspera in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
We've had some serious trials. Is this that big of a trial? No. Was it?
No.
Was it?
Poignant? It's a sham trial, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
And, yes. I love the fact that Caleb comes in, gives his monologue, kind of puts everybody in their place, and then all of a sudden, Ake turns around and said, "Caleb, did you do
brilliant
chemistry or whatever it was in one of your classes?
Exochemistry,
Exochemistry." Goes, and tell us about this. Well, I can't remember the name of the material now.
Strontium or strontium or something. Yeah.
And then the fact that essentially in 30 seconds she's debunked Nus Braka's entire backstory.
Didn't you love that? Where awesome. Caleb goes, well, the Federation only
for the last couple of 100 years has only used
blue and green.
So fuck you.
Red. I love that. I was like, yes,
and it literally just proves that Nus Braka is nothing more than just a bully. I mean, look, when you look at bullies in day-to-day life, right? They always live their life through a certain lens. Yes. And in his case, he's living life through a lens of a traumatic childhood.
Yes.
Now, okay, he needs to deal with that. But just the fact that they've come in 30 seconds, completely knocked him down from being right up here to right down here, and then all of the spectators bug off, leaving him there, And he shows his true colors, and it's just like, I'm going to blow the fucking Federation up now. Oh wait, I can't. I just thought it was so well done.
So well done. It was well acted. It was extremely well written.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're giving any nods to current socio-political
there's
things
a nod
happening,
right there. Yep.
There's a big nod in this episode throughout. Yep. The only thing that would have made this episode more Star Trek is if there had been a caves incident.
Yeah, we haven't had any caves, have we?
We haven't had caves, so I'm hopeful for season 2 that we might see some cadets in caves, because...
Well, we had rubber and space crates, but we haven't had any caves. So we're there.
Caves.
Maybe that's a season 2 thing. Well, don't forget, the cave episode was budget restraints, so I don't think they've had any budget restraints so far in this season. So
they can put it on the new wall there that they have in that. Maybe. I mean...
So one last point then.
Yeah.
One of the last scenes, Nus is, on his knees, and in comes what looks like the entire Federation.
Yeah.
Every Federation ship, from what I can gather, bears down on the Venari roll, and I tell you what, that's a hell of a sight to see. I was seeing, ships we've seen lots of in Discovery. We've had the Eisenberg class and the new Dustbuster class, which I can't remember the name of it, which is one of the new fan home models that's coming out soon. And then we just see one Intrepid class. It's like,
right.
Where's the others? And I'm hoping that's Voyager.
Right.
I just love that whole scene. It was so well done. And I have to say, that the CGI, even from that final scene when they stood in the window of the atrium and it pans out, we get a really nice close-up view of that deflector and it pans right out.
Yes.
We also get that scene when the saucer comes back in and docks and the bridge is coming. It was just all of the CGI here was so well done,
and the tie-in between what we had in the first episode and this final episode, because we got the opening without the animated seedling thing.
Sequence,
got thank you, and we got the Athena in the first episode, docking.
Yep,
and we get to see that assembly of the ship here in this final episode. So there were some very subtle and nice bookends.
Absolutely.
To this season, which I appreciate as a viewer. And I have to go back to what you said about the ships all coming in there at the final moment, because who doesn't love a scene where the bad guy's getting surrounded by every single ship in the fleet? If that's the only time all the fleet ships are ever together again, I'm fine with that, because we seem to have a problem with that in Starfleet. It needs to be added to the rule books or something.
Yeah, we only ever really saw most of the fleet. I'm trying to think. The Dominion War, we got to see a big fleet. We got to see a big fleet at War 359.
Yep.
That's really about it.
I really think that we should only assemble the fleet at that level if it is a dire threat to the universe.
Absolutely.
I don't think we need to assemble it for the opening of our government center. That seems like a bad time.
Well, but don't forget, it was a case of that they were all pulled back in because of that Omega explosion.
Yes.
So I don't think they were initially going to do that, but
I'm hoping not. But I still think it should be a class.
Yeah, absolutely. So look,
I do want to shout out to something you brought up, is the Doctor and seeing his him disappear with handing over his mobile emitter and disappearing, and then the explosion. I loved all of that. Kind of a throwback to Voyager using the holograms in space.
Yep.
But like you said, it kind of felt like maybe we could have lost the Doctor there for a hot second.
Yeah.
And that I was not happy.
No, and also it's the only time I think that we've really seen the Doctor vulnerable. His program is corrupt. He's at his he's at his weakest at this point. And we've seen emotional Doctor, both in Voyager and now. Yes. But I don't think we've ever really seen him like this before. So
this was different.
But it just goes to show you how human he is.
Yes. And I would hope that after, 900, 1,000 years, that he's really started to lean into that. And I think between time and loss and now gaining Sam as his family, as his daughter.
And I love the fact that she calls him Dad.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I loved
it. When Sam jumped in Reno's lap when they got the thanks from.
I love
Come
that
on,
scene.
so Sam and so cringy for Jett Reno.
Yep.
We could talk about this episode for days.
I think let's wrap this up because I'm sad because it is the season finale, but it is a satisfying, if not explosive, season finale that manages to tie the story together, and I think in a way that feels earned. The episode pulls together threads that have been building all season, with plenty of callbacks and that neatly bookend the premiere and remind you that this was planned as one continuous story. There's been a lot of focus on character arcs coming full circle, and for the most part, it works incredibly well, giving nearly everyone a moment to step forward before the credits roll. Jaden finally gets to show his medical instincts. Genesis gets to turn into the chair, and the cadets feel more like a real crew than they have done all season, even if a few of the lighter jokes don't land as well as they probably could have done. Like much of modern Trek, the episode leans heavily into the emotional side of the story, sometimes drifting closer, stopping the action just to talk about feelings, but it works, and it mostly connects the plot rather than actually slowing it down. Caleb's journey here is, in particular, comes to a very satisfying point, helped along by, Tig Notaro's Jett Reno, and once again, she balances humour with the kind of blunt wisdom the cadets just need to hear. One of the biggest surprises in this finale was how much is built around dialogue rather than action. Framing the crisis as a kind of courtroom drama feels very old school Trek, and it suits a character like Nus Braka, who wants to win the argument as much as the fight. And the broadcast scenes give the episode a slightly more modern edge, whilst clear parallels to the way information and propaganda gets used today. Sometimes feels a little bit on the nose, but still fitting the story being told. Paul Giamatti clearly enjoys every second of the role, getting plenty of room to dig into Braka's personality and motivations. We learn about his past, his strange fascination with Earth culture, and the reasons behind his anger at the Federation, even if the explanation ends up being smaller and more personal than the build-up suggested. The episode takes a risk by slowing things down for these performances, but it does pay off. With actors like Giamatti, Holly Hunter, Tatiana Maslany, sharing the screen, the show is smart enough to let them carry the tension without needing constant action. There are still real big visual moments and incredible set work, and enough space drama to remind you that, what this kind of show actually is, and the real focus to stay on the people. Olatunde keeps the pacing steady, letting the two main storylines move side by side without frantic style, and the show sometimes falls back on. My final thoughts, whilst it might not be, I would say, the most exciting episode in the season, because let's face it, last week's was a bit more exciting, it absolutely sticks to the landing. The finale sticks. It wraps up the main story in a way that feels complete, whilst leaving plenty of room for what comes next. And in fact, I think it ties everything up so cleanly enough that the season could almost stand on its own, even though we know the story isn't finished. What the show has now is a cast of characters that finally feel formed, and a setting that's strong enough to support more stories without needing to, reset everything. Going into the season, there was some uncertainty about whether the series would actually find its place. But by the end, I think it's clear that it has. Starfleet Academy has a lighter, younger tone than it started with, but it's also shown that it can handle the bigger ideas and the real Star Trek themes when it needs to. And more importantly, it feels like a show that genuinely understands the world it belongs to. And after this finale, I think it's ready to keep building on it. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of 10 Forward with me, Mike Overton, and the wonderful Jodie Pickens. I'm really sad that this season is over. Remember, you can catch up more with us here at the Clonestar podcast, obviously here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and that bell icon, because we are now about to start rolling into the season of interviews. And boy, oh boy, have we got some cracking interviews coming up for you. Also, you can catch up with us on all the socials, as well as our website, clonestarpodcast.com. But remember, be brave, be bold, and bold to go.